on Thursday, it became clear that Northern Ireland was facing a significant and unprecedented risk from this red alert storm. That meant we had to move very quickly to send a clear message to people to stay out of the storm, stay at home if at all possible, and stay out of that danger. The Education Minister, Paul Givan, moved very quickly to close all schools and to send that message about staying at home. We also did press and we tried to get that message out as widely as we possibly could, that people needed to stay at home and stay out of that danger. I am hugely relieved that nobody was injured and nobody seriously hurt in the storm on Friday morning. And for all of us that looked out the window and saw the scale of that storm, it really was miraculous that people were not injured in that. And then, of course, after that, we had to deal with the recovery. Huge amount of damage, unprecedented level of damage from NIE Networks' perspective, over 100,000 more people off electricity than they've ever had before with any other storm. It became very clear to me that we simply could not do this alone. There's only a certain amount of capacity within our NIE networks and road service, forestry service, local councils. So I immediately asked for that additional support and help. I'd called for an executive meeting to be held on an emergency basis that evening, and the executive met and discussed all of the impacts across a range of departments. That included for vulnerable people, for example, through health. We knew of around 1,500 vulnerable people reliant on those medical devices with batteries that required charged, for example, at home. We knew that there were many, many road obstructions, some 2,700 plus road obstructions that would require a mammoth effort by road service in conjunction with local government and forestry service and others coming in. But of course, the big issue was the sheer number of people that were off electricity. So just after the storm, on Friday afternoon, there were in and around about 30% of all connections throughout Northern Ireland off without that electricity. We also knew that that was going to take some considerable time to fix. So I had a meeting with NIE immediately after the red alert had passed to get a sense about the scale of that damage. That's where I first heard the 10-day projection, and I was deeply worried about that. I spoke to the head of the civil service. I was ensuring that our contingency arrangements were stepped up and operating as they were. We also then called that emergency executive meeting and we collectively endorsed that letter to go to the Prime Minister to ask for that urgent help by email that evening, but also that we would reach out directly and ask for that engagement and to ensure that all help that could be given to Northern Ireland was given. I'm really pleased that we got that support and help by UK government throughout that Saturday, to the extent that actually those additional electrical engineers were on the ferry on Saturday night and on their way to help those NIE network teams. On Saturday, I visited NIE Networks. I saw at firsthand the incredibly busy call centre. Many, many people pulled in to answer those calls, not just phone calls, but of course through the email system and WhatsApp system as well. We had offered that additional help through our Northern Ireland Civil Service call centre support as well to try to increase that capacity, because I know it was incredibly frustrating for everybody trying to get through and get that critical information. I also spoke to the Prime Minister on Saturday. I had a phone call with the Prime Minister where I emphasised that we needed support and we needed that urgently. And there was a high-level UK-wide ministerial meeting called Cobra that was held at 5 o'clock that I participated on. And I have to say that the UK government have been very, very good in getting that additional support to Northern Ireland. I have been pushing as hard as I possibly can with NIE Networks and others to tell us what was the additional things that they needed in order to bring that timescale of 10 days down to get those roads cleared and to try to get those reconnections to as many people as possible. I'm pleased to say over the course of the last number of days, we've seen that additional help really come through from Great Britain. We've hundreds of people, additional equipment, teams, electrical engineers, we've tree cutters, chainsaws, and the people to operate those all coming over from GB to supplement our teams here in Northern Ireland. I want to take the opportunity to say huge thanks to all of those teams out working. I know it's not just the NIE staff and those additional help and support from GB and beyond. But of course, many, many contractors across Northern Ireland also doing their bit to try to get people reconnected. We're also particularly worried about those with vulnerabilities, maybe older people, those with illnesses or recovering from illnesses, people who are isolated. We know that many of those people have been without electricity, some without electricity and water and mobile coverage for a number of days. So that's why we've stepped up through our civil contingency mechanisms, these groups in terms of real focus on vulnerabilities and the humanitarian aspects. So if you have somebody that is vulnerable, please do let us know. That person on that address will get onto a list, and we have a series of agencies that are reaching out and trying to get that support. Our Communities Minister, Gordon Lyons, has also put up £1 million to help local councils, agencies, those in the voluntary and community sector to get all kinds of practical support, not just to those who are vulnerable, although they are prioritised, but to all of those that remain without that electricity. And that can be anything from blankets to water to hot meals, to a visit to the house on a regular basis to make sure that people are doing okay in these really, really tough circumstances. So I do want to say a huge thank to everybody that has been working hard. I know that right throughout Northern Ireland, our local MLAs and local councillors have been working really hard to identify where these faults are, to liaise with NIE and local councils in terms of the support that is available. So I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been working, but most of all, to say that we know that those who are without electricity, who have been without electricity for quite a few days, that it is very, very tough. And I want to reassure you and assure you that we are doing everything that we can, working with our network of people throughout Northern Ireland to get that support to you and get you connected as soon as possible.